What if I told you that the biggest secret in the chip industry has just leaked, and it didn't come from the United States? While the entire world was watching TSMC, Intel, and ASML, something gigantic was happening in silence inside China. Huawei may have achieved what the West tried to prevent for decades, creating its own chip machine at the most advanced level on the planet. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a distant future. This is happening now. And if it's true, the West's technological dominance could be coming to an end. Something gigantic has just happened, and it is shaking the entire world of technology. Huawei has quietly confirmed the existence of a classified project for a next-generation EUV chip manufacturing system, the same technology that the West has protected for decades. Nobody saw this coming, but it is happening right before our eyes. For years, advanced chip manufacturing was the fortress of the West. Companies like TSMC and Intel dominated the game, using EUV or extreme ultraviolet lithography, the crown jewel of semiconductor manufacturing. This is the process that produces the smallest, fastest, and smartest chips on the planet, the ones that power AI, smartphones, and supercomputers. The Dutch company ASML has been the only one capable of building these $350 million machines, each one a true feat of precision engineering, made of thousands of specialized parts and decades of research. Meanwhile, China was on the outside. U.S. export bans ensured that ASML's EUV tools never reached Chinese factories. Western analysts confidently claimed that China would take at least 10, maybe 15 years to reach this level without EUV technology. They said China's chip dream was over, but the story didn't end there. At the end of 2025, reports began to emerge that Huawei had built something extraordinary inside its research base in Dongguan. Engineers were reportedly testing a homemade EUV prototype. Proof tests are planned for the third quarter of 2025, and full production could begin in 2026. It sounds unreal, but multiple reliable sources have confirmed this. What everyone thought was impossible may already be happening. So, how did they do it? After the United States placed Huawei on the blacklist in 2019, cutting the company's access to American technology and advanced chip-making tools, most believed it was checkmate. ASML itself stopped shipping deep technology machines to China. Huawei's manufacturing partner, SMIC, was stuck using older DUV machines, only capable of chips around 7 nanometers. It seemed like a dead end.
But instead of giving up, Huawei and the entire Chinese tech industry launched a full-scale counterattack. Billions were directed into research. Universities, private companies, and government laboratories joined forces in what became a national project of semiconductor independence. And now we are seeing the result, a completely new approach to EUV. Huawei's secret weapon is something called LDP, or laser-induced discharge plasma. Instead of ASML's complex laser system, this technique vaporizes tin between electrodes and hits that vapor with electrical pulses, creating the same UV wavelength of 13.5 nanometers, but through a simpler and cheaper process. If this scales, it could make EUV machines that cost only a fraction of ASML's $350 million giants, breaking the monopoly and shaking the entire global semiconductor supply chain. Patents for this design appeared as early as 2023, and now the prototype is reportedly undergoing testing. If the system works as expected, mass production could begin in 2026, paving the way for China to produce 3-nanometer chips domestically. This would be a historic leap. And Huawei is not alone. SMIC, China's main foundry, is also part of this coordinated effort. Research teams across the country have reported synchronized advances, From light sources to optical systems, everything points to a unified national strategy. This is not random innovation, this is a mission. And here is why this matters so much. The smaller the chip, the greater the power. 3-nanometer technology means more transistors in less space, more performance, and lower energy consumption. The jump from 7 nanometers to 3 nanometers is colossal, nearly doubling computational capacity while reducing energy use by up to 30%. That difference powers everything: faster AI models, smarter smartphones, and more efficient electric vehicles. If Huawei and SMIC succeed, ASML's dominance could collapse overnight. China's EUV machines could compete with Western pricing, and the sanctions that were meant to block progress could end up accelerating it. Even Huawei's founder reportedly told Xi Jinping earlier this year that the chip shortage is decreasing, a real sign of confidence in domestic production. NVIDIA has also started warning investors about Huawei's growth in AI chips.
Just a year ago, ASML's CEO said China was 10 to 15 years behind. But Huawei's advance to 7 nanometers already shocked the world in 2023. If 3 nanometers reach production in 2026, that gap disappears. Of course, there are still challenges. ASML's process took 2 decades to achieve near-perfect yields. Huawei's new system is still untested at scale, and early production could be difficult. But the message is clear. China is not retreating. It is building a self-sufficient chip ecosystem from scratch. Mirrors, optics, software, everything. This is more than technology. This is sovereignty. The next 6 months will decide whether Huawei's EUV machine is real or just hype. Either way, the game has already changed. The West is no longer alone at the top of the chip mountain, and the balance of global technological power may never be the same again. But Huawei's ambitions go far beyond chips. A company that was almost destroyed by sanctions rebuilt itself from scratch, creating its own chips, its own software, and now its own manufacturing technology. It isn't just surviving the tech war, it is rewriting it. This time, the world is not watching an underdog, it is watching a giant rise again. The global tech race was getting tighter, and as new restrictions came into force, companies rushed to grab every chip, every tool, every fragment of technology before the window closed forever. When the Dutch government introduced even stricter export rules at the end of 2023, the panic was immediate. Chinese companies flooded suppliers with last-minute orders, desperate to secure anything that could keep their production lines running. But just when it looked like Beijing's tech dreams were trapped, Huawei emerged from the shadows with something no one expected: a national chip that shattered expectations. Huawei partnered with Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, or SMIC, to create the Ascend 91SC, a processor built on a 7-nanometer N+2 process. It is not the most advanced node in the world, but it is powerful enough to matter. More importantly, it is manufactured entirely on Chinese soil, with no reliance on Taiwan's TSMC, no contracts with Samsung, and no risk of sanctions cutting off supply overnight. For the first time, China had a competitive AI chip that was not chained to anyone else's rules. But the victory was not perfect. The production success rate was around 20%, far below the 70% needed for large-scale profitability. That number exposed the enormous technical challenges China still faces. Building a few working chips in a lab is one thing. Manufacturing them at scale with precision is a completely different game. Still, Huawei refused to back down. Samples were already in the hands of potential customers, and the company set an ambitious goal: increasing production to 100,000 units in 1 year. Compared to giants like NVIDIA, that number seems small, but for Huawei, it was never about numbers. It was about proof. proof that China could manufacture advanced AI chips with its own hands, on its own terms. Every small improvement in yield rate, every adjustment in the process pushed China closer to technological independence, something Washington believed it could block forever. Technology journalist Chong Tinging-Fong from Nikkei Asia described it best. This is not a company chasing profit. It is a nation mobilizing its people, its resources, and its political will toward a single mission: technological self-sufficiency. Academics also noticed the shift. It is not that China has matched ASML yet. It is that the gap, once thought impossible to close, is now visibly shrinking. These two advances, Huawei's AI chip and the Shanghai EUV platform, are not coincidences. They're the result of a deliberate national mission. When Washington began tightening restrictions under Trump and then expanded them in 2022, Beijing stopped playing defense. It went all in. The Chinese government poured billions into semiconductor research, equipment manufacturing, and chip design, uniting state universities and startups under a single goal: break the dependency cycle. The scale is massive. China now represents more than 40% of ASML's global sales, a market too big for the Dutch giant to ignore. This interdependence works both ways. ASML needs China to sustain its growth, just as China needs ASML's technology. But with Beijing's advances, this balance is changing. The message is clear. The choke points that once defined global power in semiconductors are no longer guaranteed. And if China continues advancing at this pace, the entire world order of chips could be rewritten sooner than anyone imagined. We hope you enjoyed the video. If so, it would help us a lot if you left a comment, because the YouTube algorithm values that and recommends our videos to more people. Don't forget to like, activate the bell, and you will receive a notification when we release the next video. See you there. A big hug.